Well, hi, everybody.
Hi.
Hi, Phil. In case you don't know, I'm Alan Drew. I'm the director of the Literary Festival here. Thanks for coming out tonight. I know that some of you could be on a plane to Cancun or something right now, so thanks for sticking around and coming out to listen to Claire Vaye Watkins read from her fantastic short story collection, Battleborn. If you haven't bought it yet, you should, and we have copies out there to get because it's really, really good. And Claire, I think, has agreed to be signing books afterwards tonight, so please stick around afterwards, pick up a book, and get it signed. Before I introduce Marciano Lopez and Jennifer Bradley, who will be giving the formal introductions tonight, I need to thank a few people that helped make this reading series possible. So College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, the faculty and staff in the English department. Without the English department and the faculty being invested in this and getting the students to read the books, it'd be very difficult to pull this literary festival off. So thank you to all the faculty who show up and get their students to read the works of the authors that are visiting. I need to thank my graduate assistant, Susan Peterson, without whom I would make a total mess out of this thing. So she's in the back there. She's selling the books, so say hi to her when you go out. Thanks, Susan. Our co-sponsors, Irish Studies, Gender and Women's Studies, Fawlby Library, Africana Studies, the Honors Program, Modern Language and Literature, and the Writing Center. And I need to thank Lisa Sewell, with whom I co-teach the course, the Literary Festival Workshop, or otherwise known as Authors On and Off the Page. And I want to thank the students, too, who have been fantastic this semester, asked really good questions, and are here tonight as well. So for those of you who don't know, there's a course I just mentioned attached to the Literary Festival, and it's a really unique course because we read the works of visiting authors, and then they actually come to the class and sit down and have a conversation with the students. So Claire did that today. It was fantastic. So if you're sticking around next year and need to take a good course, really exciting course, check it out. We have two more readings for this year's festival. On March 21st, we have the Heimbold Chair, Mary O'Malley, reading in the President's Lounge. It's co-sponsored by Irish Studies. And on April 16th, you might have heard of this guy. His name is Gino Diaz. He'll be in the cinema in the Connolly Center. The readings are free. They're at 7 o'clock. And there's always food and brownies, so come on out. We are on Facebook, by the way. So if you like this or you feel like liking us, please like us on Facebook. We post upcoming readings there. We also post videos from the readings, so spread the word, like it, get the word out. That'd be very helpful. Let's see what else I have to say here. I guess after the reading, there'll be a question and answer session, so get your questions ready to ask. And what else? Oh, I mentioned the book signing. There's food. I think that's it. So here's Marciano and Jen.
Hello. Tonight we welcome Claire Vaye Watkins, author of Battleborn, a collection of short stories that just last year burst onto the literary scene like the Kool-Aid Man through a wall. Battleborn earned a Silver Pen Award from the Nevada Writers Hall of Fame and earned Watkins a place on the National Book Foundation's 5 Under 35 list for up-and-coming fiction writers. Born in Death Valley, raised in the Mojave Desert, and schooled at the University of Nevada, Reno, Watkins sets all 10 of her stories in California and Nevada, revisiting with haunting beauty the mythology of the West that seems to have enraptured Americans since 1803. In my favorite story from this collection, The Diggings, Watkins confronts that mythology head-on, giving voice to the heartbreak of the gold rush, which was a lie even at the time. Still, there's nothing else to do with the burden of history except carry it onward and forward as the narrator of her first story, Ghost Cowboys, a fictionalization of Watkins herself, struggles to do with her family history. Her father was a close associate of Charles Manson. The brilliance of Watkins is that this very personal tale feels no more real or stirring than the rest, this character no better drawn or understood than the rest. And as an aspiring writer, I would like nothing more than to pull off such amazing feats of empathy.
Claire Vaye Watkins' short story collection, Battleborn, pulls the reader into the world of the American West while simultaneously pushing away the romantic, idealistic, preconceived notions of the region. The collection features 10 stories which filter the West through 10 different lenses. Miss Watkins' emotionally charged characters are multifaceted and often morally ambiguous. These characters encourage us as readers to recognize the same potential for both redemption and destruction within our lives. Battleborn begins with the story Ghosts, Cowboys, which interweaves fiction with the historical events surrounding the Manson family. This first story establishes the theme of the burdens of history and family that the collection proceeds to grapple with. The stories invite readers into a variety of settings, like the walls of a brothel with a naive young man, or down a hole with a man going mad with greed for gold, and even into a bathtub with a young woman struggling with her pregnancy and the demands of raising a child. Like Marciano, one of my favorite stories in the collection, The Diggings, showcases one of these characters named Joshua, who states that a promise unkept will take a man's mind. It doesn't matter whether the promise is made by a woman or a territory or a future foretold. Battleborn boldly examines the madness that ensues from the disillusionment of the West and these unkept promises of life. The stories not only communicate the importance of intimacy with oneself and with others, but also captures the difficulty of this feat. I admire Claire Vaye Watkins' courage in presenting stories that embrace the darker side of the West and human nature, and I imagine that the psychological realism that Miss Watkins exemplifies in her stories is something that many of writers today aspire to achieve. Please join me in welcoming Miss Claire Vaye Watkins.
Thank you. Those were probably the finest introductions I've ever been given. So thank you so much for those. Incredible stuff. And I'm just like flabbergasted with flattery that you guys at least have convinced me that you like them, even if maybe either way. That's a really important part of the genre of the introduction, so you nailed it. Thank you so much. And thank you all for coming. Thanks to Alan and the festival and the Department of English and the university for having me. It's a real honor to have people read your work, and it's an even greater honor, as I was saying to the class earlier today, it's perhaps an even greater honor to have people force other people to read your work. So I really, really am doubly honored. I'm going to read a story from Battleborn. The class was so smart and insightful about this book that it kind of got me excited about it again, which is it's really fun. And so I thought I'd read a story that I've never actually read before. This story is called, I don't actually know how to say the title myself because it's in Italian and I don't speak Italian, and so if there are any Italian speakers in the room, you can feel free to correct my pronunciation, but I think it's called Rondine al Nido. Anyway, that's the Italian title, and it has an epigraph here. Before I get to it, I will totally take questions afterwards. I'm happy to take any kind of off-the-wall questions or whatever is just on your mind, so don't be shy afterwards. And I won't get to the whole story, but you'll get the flavor, I think. So the epigraph for Rondine al Nido comes from a sacred Hindu text, the Bhagavad Gita. And it also happens to be the words that J. Robert Oppenheimer muttered upon the first successful detonation of an atomic bomb at the Trinity test in New Mexico. And that is, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." She will be 30 when she walks out on a man who, in the end, she'll decide didn't love her enough, though he in fact did love her, but his love wrenched something inside him, and this caused him to hurt her. She'll move to an apartment downtown, and soon, very soon, people will say, admiringly at times and skeptically at others. She will have a date with a sensible man working as an attorney, the profession of his father and brothers, in the office where she is a typist. They will share a dinner, and then the next weekend another, then drinks, a midday walk through the upheaved brick sidewalks of her neighborhood, a Sunday morning garden tour of his. On their 5th date, she will allow him to take her to bed. Before they met, he'll have been a social worker, and after they make love, he will tell her this, and about the terrible things he saw in that other life. He'll begin at CPS. There was this woman. She had this little girl, beautiful, 2 years old. Then he'll stop and lean down and put his lips to her hair. "Do you really want to hear this?" he'll ask, as though just remembering she was listening. He'll feel her head nod where it rests on his chest and go on. About the Mexican woman who let her beautiful, bright, 2-year-old daughter starve to death in a motel room near the freeway. About the teenage boy, high on coke, who broke into the apartment next door and slit his neighbor's throat. About the man who worked at the snack bar at the Sparks Marina, who lured a retarded girl into the men's bathroom with a lemonade. About the father who made his son live under their porch in Sun Valley. About the hole the boy bored up through the floor so that he might watch his stepmother brush her hair in the morning. He will talk, and she will listen. It will be as though she's finally found someone else willing to see the worst in the world. Someone who can't help but see it. For the first time in her whole life, she'll feel understood. When he finishes one story, she'll ask for another, then another, wanting to stack them like bricks, build walls of sorrow around the two of them, seal them up together. An uncontrollable feeling, like falling, will be growing in her. They could build a love this way. Then, feigning lightness, she'll ask him to tell her about something he did, something terrible. When he was a boy, maybe. It will be late. Watery light from a waxing moon will catch the corner of the bed, setting the white sheets aglow. 2 candles, the man's idea, will flicker feebly on the nightstand, drawing moths against the window screen. He will tell her about his younger brother and a firecracker and a neighbor's farmhouse in Chatsworth, of straw insulation and old dry wood that went up like whoosh so fast it didn't seem fair. Of running around to the front door and ringing the bell. She will find this curious, the bell, and helping the neighbor, an elderly woman, down the front steps. "Now you show me yours," he'll say and laugh. He will have a devastating laugh. By then, there will be much to tell. Too much. A pair of expensive tropical lizards she'd begged for, then abandoned in a field to die when their care became tedious. Birthstone rings and a real gold bracelet plucked from a friend's jewelry box at a sleepover. Asking an ugly, wretched boy with circles of ringworm strung like galaxies across his head to meet her for a kiss at the flagpole, laughing wildly when he showed. These she'll have been carrying since girlhood, like very small stones in the pocket. The sensible man will be waiting. Who can say why we offer the parts of ourselves we do, and when? Our girl is 16 years old. Her palms press against the stinging metal of the heat rack. Her best friend, Lena, a large-toothed girl from Minnesota, stands across from her, palms pressed against the rack, too. Their eyes are locked, and a skin scent rises between them. This is their game, one of many. In the pocket of our girl's apron rests a stack of fleshy pepperoni, their edges curling in the swelter. Behind her, the slap-mouthed pizza oven bellows steadily. A blackened sheet of parchment floats in a dish of hot grease. The grease has a name, and as our girl tells the story, this name will return to her, along with other details of this place, which had until now left her. The flatulent smell from a newly opened bag of sausage, the flimsy yellowed plastic covering the computer keyboards and phone keypads, the serrated edge of a cardboard box slicing her index finger nearly to the bone. Naked in her own bed with a man for whom she feels too much, too soon, our girl will recall the name of this grease. Whirl, it was called, and the then exquisite possibility of searing off her fingertips. Lena, her friend, finally pulls her hands from the rack, shaking the sting from them. "You win," she says. Our girl waits a beat, gloating, then lifts her palms from the surface, lustrous with heat. She folds a pepperoni disc into her mouth. "Let's go again," she says. Soon, our girl is cut loose for the night by the manager, a brick-faced, wire-haired woman named Susie. She goes to the back of the restaurant, to a bathroom constructed from sheetrock as an afterthought. At a row of metal sinks outside the bathroom, 2 delivery boys wash dishes. One of the boys, a 19-year-old named Jeremy, has convinced himself that he loves our girl, though she has already once declined an invitation to watch Dawn of the Dead in the single-wide trailer he has all to himself on his mother's boyfriend's property. In the bathroom, the plastic shelves are stocked with fluorescent light bulbs and printer paper and a dozen 2-gallon plastic tubs once used to store a cream sauce the franchise no longer offers. She removes her hat, her apron, her once white tennis shoes and ankle socks. She unpins her name tag from her patriotically colored collared shirt and pulls the shirt off over her head. Yellow grains of cornmeal sprinkle into her eyelashes and along the part in her hair. She steps out of her khaki pants, stiff with dried dough water and dark, unidentified oils. She stands before the mirror in her bra and underwear, listening to the hollow, slow-motion clangs at the triple sinks. She steps out of her underwear. Susie bellows from up front, and then someone's non-smarking soul screeches against the tile. In the sink, using the granulated pink soap from the dispenser, our girl scrubs the smell of herself from her panties. Later, the dampness left from this washing will remind her of the pizza parlor, and of poor pathetic Jeremy, the delivery boy, and other remnants of a life she already wishes she could forget. She waits for Lena on the bench in front of the counter, watching carry-out mothers waddle from and to their idling cars with their pizzas and their slippery, foil-wrapped cheese sticks. 6.5 hours ago, in the parking lot of the Walmart across the highway, Kyle Peterson, a tenor sax in their school's jazz band, dumped Lena, his girlfriend of nearly a year, for the first-chair flutist, a freshman, and a thinner, looser version of Lena. 2 hours later, our girl wiped mascara from under Lena's rubbed raw eyes in the sheetrock bathroom and asked her whether she wanted to get the fuck out of this shit town. 2 hours after that, when she was certain her mother and stepfather had left for their Friday night 12-step meeting, our girl dialed her own phone number. She told the machine, "I'm going to Lena's after work to stay the night," and "I love you," which is what she always says after she lies to them. By the time Lena gets off, they've both got an uneventful adolescence's worth of recklessness welling inside them, and one of them has a driver's license and a like-new Dodge Neon, and it's just the tip of summer, which means there are college boys from places like Chicago and Florida and New York City wandering the Strip, 60 miles away, boys who came to Las Vegas looking for girls willing to do the things she and Lena think they are willing to do. At 8 o'clock, Lena changes out of her uniform and wets her hair and underarms at the bathroom sink, and then the two walk out into the parking lot with their soiled uniforms balled under their arms, their apron strings trailing along the asphalt, as though that they don't have to be back for tomorrow's dinner rush, as though they don't have to be back ever again. On the road, all there is desert and night and the tail lights of the cars ahead of them. The radio comes in and out. Once, without taking her eyes off the road, Lena says, "I should have done it with him. I don't know why I didn't." Our girl says nothing, only nods. When Lena swings the neon around the final curve of the mountain range separating their town from Las Vegas, they see light sweeping across the valley floor, like a blanket made of lights, like light is a liquid and the city is a great glistening lake. Lena sucks a little saliva from her overlarge teeth and asks, is it okay if they turn the radio off? She has never driven in the city. Our girl says, that's cool, because the radio is suddenly nothing compared to the billboards and the limos and the rented convertibles and speakers embedded in the sidewalks emitting their own music into the air, and because she'll say anything to soothe Lena, to keep her driving. Our girl directs Lena to park on the top floor of the parking garage at the New York, New York. It is June 2001. This is the Las Vegas that has recently given up on becoming what they were calling a family-friendly vacation destination. The water slides and roller coasters and ice skating rinks that were once part of the mega resorts have been torn down to make room for additional hotel towers, floor space, and parking garages like this one. Lena pulls hard on the parking brake the way her mother taught her. She moved here from Minnesota her freshman year when her mom was offered a job as the Nye County health nurse. Her parents have been divorced since before she can remember. She sees her father, an accountant, on Christmas and Easter and lives with him in St. Paul for 5 weeks during the summer. Lena doesn't know anything about what was once Wet n Wild or MGM Grand Adventures. Our girl spent her birthdays and end-of-year field trips in such places, and could be saddened by their vanishing, could consider it the demolition of her childhood. But thoughts like these will not come to her for years. Lena has a tube of waterproof mascara and a peacock blue eyeliner pencil in her purse. Our girl has vanilla bean body spray and kiwi strawberry lip gloss and gum in 3 different incarnations of mint. All these they trade in the front seat of the Neon until both are eye-lined and fragrant and fresh-mouthed. From the parking structure, they walk through the New York, New York. The shops in the casino are facaded with half-scale fire escapes and newsstands and mailboxes with graffiti replicated on the side. They sell Nathan's Famous hot dogs or tiny Statue of Liberty erasers and keychain taxicabs and all varieties of shot glasses. Our girl leads the way. The floor is busy carpet or plastic cobble. Tacky, her mother would call it, dully. The ceiling is lit to suggest stars glittering at twilight, as is popular along the strip at this time. A bulbous red glittered apple rotates above a stand of slots. Our girl ignores the directional signs, which point down circuitous routes pitted with pocket bars and sports books. Once, Lena touches her lightly, thinking they've lost their way. Our girl says, "Trust me," and Lena does. Outside, there is a breeze threading through the warm night and a jubilant honking of cars and all those billions of bulbs flashing in time, signaling to the girls that they are, at long last, alive. Across Las Vegas Boulevard is an enormous gold lion posing regally in the mist of a fountain. The lion is the property's second. The original, a formidable open-mouthed beast forged in mid-roar, was replaced because it frightened some Chinese tourists and was considered bad luck by some others.
Down the expansive block is an unimpressive aging Camelot, and beyond that, a black glass pyramid, the apex of which emits a thick rope of light supposedly visible from space. The girls set off in the opposite direction, toward an ever-expanding ancient realm, and across the palm-lined, traffic-clogged boulevard, the Eiffel Tower, where our girl's stepfather poured concrete during Phase 2. They cross a Brooklyn bridge, its waters strewn with coins, and pass before the wood-toothed mouth of a grinning coney clown that will be demolished long before either girl reveals the happenings of this night to anyone. The weekend crowds are dense on the sidewalks and mostly foreign or Midwestern. This allows the girls to amuse themselves at intersections by grasping hands, stepping off the curb against a red light, and glancing backwards to see the crowd follow in their wake, taxicabs honking wildly. They have a teenager's sense of their surroundings. They wander unknowingly into the photos of strangers, and twice Lena tramples the head of a Japanese tourist walking in front of her. But they feel men and boys before they see them, poking each other in the ribs, perking up for button-ups and baseball caps and oversized jerseys, whirling around at the sound of a skateboard. Soon, propped on the rubber handrail of a downbound escalator, our girl stares unblinkingly at a cluster of young men headed in the opposite direction. When they pass, Lena turns and waves to them, but our girl dismounts the escalator coolly and without turning, wielding the fearsome magnetism of ambivalence. When they reach the top, the young men turn and descend the escalator. The young men outnumber the girls by 2. Our girl likes the way the 4 of them form a slowly closing semicircle around her and her friend. She likes, too, how they all look the same, in their baggy jeans and pastel-collared shirts. They are dressed as most boys their age or slightly older dress, as though their tops and bottoms were mismatched pieces from 2 separate puzzles, one marked boy and the other man. One of them introduces himself as Brad, another as Tom, another as Greg, and the last, Alan. Except for Alan, they say these names too often, and like candies too large for their mouths. This is Brad. Brad, shake her hand. Don't be rude, Brad. And because of this, it becomes clear to everyone that these are not their real names. Everyone except Lena, who waves and says, "Nice to meet you, Brad." The one who calls himself Tom suggests they walk up to the Bellagio to watch the fountain show. The girls glance at each other and say, "Sure," as they do again at the show when one young man, Greg, is it, offers them a cup of orange soda clandestinely cut with vodka. Lena's mouth twists as she releases the straw, but our girl urges the straw up to her lips again, and Lena drinks more heartily. They pass the cup back and forth. This is what they came for. Soon, the industrial fountain spigots emerge from the glassy black surface of the water, and somewhere strings begin to hum. The song is Rondine al Nido, which pleases our girl not because she recognizes it, she doesn't, but because she wants Lena to experience the pure, painful awe of the bright-lit Bellagio fountains, and she believes this is best conveyed when the cannon blasts are paired with something classical, something like the agony of ill-fated love. After the show, the boy who calls himself Greg turns to them. He is large, with the overexpressed muscles that come from a university rec center, so unlike the aching, striated parts of a man who works for a living, as our girl's stepfather would say. Greg asks, "How old are you guys?" "Old enough," says Lena, and this makes our girl proud. Greg laughs. "We'll see about that." The boys ask them more questions, where they live, where they go to school, and meanwhile, one of them replenishes the soda cup. Our girl lies up a city life for them, moves them into adjacent two-story houses near the Galleria Mall, skips them ahead to senior year, and enrolls them in a school whose football team once came out and trounced their own. They drink, they walk. The boys say they go to UCSB, though our girl will misremember it as UCSC, so that in the coming years, these boys and what they do to them will combine with far-off Santa Cruz, California. And years later, lying beside the sensible man with the devastating laugh, the first man she will not see beyond, the boys will have the scent of damp redwood and the sharp angles of that region's mountain lions, which she once read about. In her bed, the candles dimming behind her, she will say nothing of these associations. She will be barely aware of them. She'll tug the top sheet out from under her, absently touch her fingers to the dampness left between her legs, and say, "They had a room." But the sensible man, being who he is, will find the angles in her face. The redwood wet will be in his throat when he asks her, "You went there? Alone? You were just a girl." "I had Lena," she'll say, "my friend." But because he'll know what's coming, this will only make it worse. I think I'll stop there. Thanks. Thank you. As I said, I'm totally happy to answer any questions. This is always my favorite part of the reading gossip session afterwards. So don't be at all shy. Or yes.
I'm not in the class where you guys are discussing your work, and I was wondering how long you've been writing for and how many books you've done of short stories or otherwise since you started.
I've only done the one.
Mm-hmm.
I've been writing. I've been writing since I could write. But I've been wanting to be a writer since I was about 19, so almost 10 years. And this book took three and a half years or so to write, and then it was published just last year. So that's my coming of age kind of thing. But it was always something that I did. I was telling the class I've always kind of been a bit of a creep and listening to people and looking at observing others and writing down things, and so yeah, I had wanted to be like a comic, or well, first I wanted to be the president, and then when I realized that it's hard to spin the fact that your dad was best buds with Charles Manson, I thought, all right, maybe politics is not it. So then it was comedy or filmmaking, and then I was telling the class I realized how many people you would have to collaborate with to make a film, and that was horrific, like truly horrific to me. And then it was writing from then on out, and I guess I was about a freshman in college when I dreamed that little dream. Good question though. Any others out there in TV land? Yes.
In a lot of your stories, you tend to use not necessarily names, but more kind of like descriptions that you don't have like actual names for your characters.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you?
Yes. There are a lot, huh? Yeah. There's Our Girl, and then we have Razor Blade Baby and The Miracle. There's a little baby named The Miracle in there. I don't know. It just kind of like feels right. I think it's interesting. I always like, sometimes naming your characters is really tricky. I think some people think like there are a lot of people in the world named like Jess and Tom. Just characters should have regular names. But I feel like I think Annie Proulx said like my life is full of people with regular names. I don't want any regular names. So my characters probably have too quirky of names, honestly. But I guess it's kind of, I like the way it looks on the page too, and I like the effect that it has. It's kind of like, how can you, often I think we mistakenly assume that if a character doesn't have a name, they are not characterized or looked at much. So I like to look at people that we might not know their name. I guess would be the reason for that kind of stuff. But I hadn't really thought much about it, honestly. It's very observant of you. Yes?
I was kind of wondering, what's your experience with drawing from your personal life versus just kind of imagining a story?
Yeah. My process uses both of those modes, and both of them all the time, like in each story, you know? I mean, as you guys mentioned, there's the opening story, the character is named Claire Watkins, but I think all of these characters are as much me as she is. I think about this concept that I heard the writer Joe Mackle talk about. He was talking about nonfiction essays, actually, but he was talking about you need to implicate yourself when you write, and I kind of started to understand that as you can't really like keep your work at arm's distance with you. Like sometimes if I find myself writing characters and I've like totally got them figured out, and I have this distance and I'm like, I've pinned you down, like I know you, those usually don't work. I usually have to then ask like, why am I interested in that person? I think it has to do with like, it's a method of writing close to the bone for me, you know, to ask myself like, all right, you've written this like old prospector guy, but why? What do you care about? And then it's sort of like, well, you know, I happen to have an old stepdad in my life who kind of has some of those characteristics that Harris has. He sort of pushes people away, and it makes himself very, very heartsick in the process. And I guess what I have to say when I'm writing, like, what really, really interests you about Harris? And, like, get at that and stop avoiding the, blood of it or something. Yeah, it's kind of a weird self-examination, I guess, you know. But it also helps you, I think if you are using your own experience, it can help you make stuff up better too, right? Like I think about, so I worked at this like pizza parlor, right? It was a Domino's Pizza, if you don't know. I worked there for years in high school, and like I hated that place so much, and I still, like, if I don't eat at Domino's to this day. Like, it's just not only because of their other shady stuff going on, but it's really because of, like, when I think about, like, why, and of course, like, my fiance, who loves a good pizza, will be like, why, come on, just lighten up. And when I had to really think about it, and it's like, I guess it was, like, the physicality was so suffocating in there, like, so hot, so suffocating. And I felt like I would never get out. Like, I couldn't breathe in there, you know? And this pizza parlor was not going to be right until I got that quality in. And then I have to ask myself, if I make up my next setting, what's the, how are you going to make this, like, where's the self-implication and the bone of this? Yeah.
You were just saying that you tend to like go back and redo scenes over and over until they get the like feeling that you want.
Mm-hmm.
I know when I'm writing, I read what I write so many times, I kind of like can't distance myself from it at all. Like,
yeah.
How do you like step back to see like?
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Like you can't really tell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're snowblind. You can't see it at all. I mean, I think the only thing, if you have worked until you can't see the words anymore, like, that phenomenon when you say a word over and over and it's not a word anymore. Sometimes it happens on the page too, and if you get there, I think the only thing you can do is set it free, give it to other people or put it in a drawer until you get some fresh perspective or some distance. Reading what is a good break to take from it, if you think like, yeah, my story is like beloved but written by Kurt Vonnegut. I'm going to go and read some Kurt Vonnegut, I'd love to read that book, by the way. Gosh, if I had $1 for every time I think, I wish Kurt Vonnegut were still with us. Yes?
I was wondering if you talk about setting is a real important part of this book. So I was wondering if you talk about the setting of Nevada and California and how that sort of inspired or influenced the writing of the stories.
Yeah, setting is a pretty important part of my process. I really can't understand like who a person is until I understand where they are, like, and maybe that comes with, maybe there's a bit of romanticism in me, like probably my secret fear about this book is that it's a really nostalgic book about landscape, but if I don't know what a character like sees when they wake up in the morning, then I don't really know how they think about it or what they're thinking about. Like, it's impossible for me to, and then God, forget about making a plot. Like I talked to you guys about how hard it is for me to write plots. If they don't have like a dead body to find in the desert, like I'm never gonna get them out of the bathtub, which I sometimes don't get them out of the bathtub. So it's like it's an engine for plot, development of character. It's kind of for me like they're often sort of compartmentalized. Like in grade school, it's like character, plot, setting. But for me, it's setting is like the meat holding all that stuff together. And so it basically like this, I don't know, essential context that I don't think I've ever written a successful story. And you know how some people can write a setting that's really minimalistic, almost like, a lot of really great writers, like Where Are You Going, Where Have You Been? It's just like that diner and then the threshold of her front door, the screen door there, with Arnold Friend sticking a creaky boot in there, And I don't know if I could write a story that good with that minimalist of a setting, at least. I had a teacher a long time ago who said, "We are who we are because of where we are." I guess I took that kind of literally. Yes?
So you just said your fear was that the book was like an exercise in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Can you talk about like why that would be something to be afraid of from where you sit?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't that be a great project?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I was actually thinking about this myself when I was driving down here, which is, why is nostalgia a bad thing? Like, why, when you're trained to write, you're taught that it is sort of a cousin to sentimentality or melodrama. And I think it can be, that it can be a flattening device, that it is unearned sentiment in some way. But it doesn't necessarily have to be, like I have such tremendous affection for Nevada and for the American West, that it would be impossible for me to write a book that wasn't affectionate towards the place. Although, perhaps notably, other people don't pick up on that so much. Like, they say, like, this is they'll talk about it being, like, brutal or harsh, And I'm like, really? I just love it so much. Like, it seems like the book is like a big hug, That's a weird thing to say about a book with, like, so many, I won't go into it, but there's some harsh imagery in there. But I guess that's the thing, is it's kind of a short, nostalgia can be a kind of like an artistic shorthand that you aren't really working in. And the American West is already so, got that sepia tone all over it, right? Like, you said it perfectly. Like, by the time people who were actually at the gold rush were participating in like a postmodern moment, like it was a lie when they got there, right? Or that like, the tumbleweed is not native to the American West. Like the horse, all these big things, it's all so fraught and unstable. And I guess I didn't want to work in that shorthand. If you're picking up what I'm putting down.
Yeah. Well, nostalgia also sounds like it can be erasure of, like, you're imposing a certain kind of easy.
Mm-hmm. And nostalgia, I think we have a feeling like it's always positive, which could be a barrier to get to some of that moral ambiguity, the depth of things, But I don't think it necessarily needs to be, I think that homesickness is a cousin of nostalgia, and like, where would art be if not for homesickness, Yikes. I don't know. Yes?
I love how you're working with time, and like in the story that you just read, all of that sort of future perfect, like she will have, this will, it isn't until later that, and I wonder if you could just talk more about, sort of like the man and the woman are there, and that's one place in time, but then she's telling the story with that future.
Yeah, yeah. You know, this is kind of something that I wouldn't have really been much able to articulate, except for one of the students asked me earlier today and got me thinking about that. Because, you know, like when you make these decisions, at least when I do, I just sort of feel my way through it, you know? And if I can get the grammar correct, that's a bonus. But I just kind of like feel what is right. So really, when you ask any question that says, you know, why did you do this? It's more, the question really is, why did you keep this, you know? So I don't know why I did anything the first time I did it, but I think the reason I kept it, the reason it works if it does, is that what we talked about this afternoon was that there's an inevitability. It feels kind of like a trap. Like the future has already happened, and it's sort of predetermined for her. And I think that she's feeling that way too, you know. As the story goes on, this need for destruction, that's kind of why I made the Oppenheimer gesture, is that she wants to smash things up, you know? Like she wants to destroy things. There's this like erotic freedom in destruction for her, and she'll, you know, smash anything to get out of there, and does. And that's already decided. She's already kind of done that. So I guess that's why I kind of kept it, that it felt expansive and yet claustrophobic at the same time, maybe. If that makes sense. Good question, though. Maybe that's it. Thank you, guys. Oh, one more. Okay.
Sorry.
That's
You
okay.
were telling us in class how sometimes writers reach a certain point where it becomes a struggle to kind of get back on the horse and continue. Was there any advice you received from maybe another writer or friend that kind of helped you keep on going?
No. No. I have a couple little like Post-its above my desk that come from different places. One of them is from Roger Ebert. He says that the muse comes during composition and not before. You know, the muse comes during composition and not before. That is like painfully logical, and you just want to be like, come on, Roger Ebert, you know? But and then there's another one that is for perspective, and it comes from my friend Mike Cardos. Said one time, he said, writing isn't hard. Working in a mine is hard. You know? So whenever I'm like, oh, it's all my life is love, then I'm like, you don't work in a mine. You know, get to the computer, right? And then the last one is just for pure like ego inflation, and it's I sold kilos of Coke. I'm guessing I could sell CDs, which is Jay-Z, you know. I sold kilos of Coke. I'm guessing I could sell CDs. You know, it's like I'm a freaking woman. I got here. I've done some crap. I can write a sentence, you know. I drive my own car. Like I can write a sentence, you know. Yeah, I got that. So. Jay-Z always. Hip-hop helps, for sure. Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.